today. One thing that we thought might be fun for this conversation is we're at the end of the year is to look back retrospectively and also ahead to 2016. What we did in early 2015 and 2014 was predictions for this year. Wanted to kind of talk through how the industry fared, be able to kind of have a fun look back and both some of the aha moments, and not all of the predictions turn out correctly, as we know, both in the weather and the financial markets. But also there's some fun, I think, stories that we can share and also glean from our guest today, Mark Walker. We would love to just do some brief introductions as well for today's presenters.
Absolutely. As usual, I'm Dustin Cederholm. I'm the digital marketing strategist or digital conversion manager for Fluid. I've been with Fluid now just a little bit over a year, so I'm excited for that, and just happy to be doing almost my 11th, I guess, webinar with Fluid so far. So thank you all for joining us. Let Phil go ahead and introduce himself briefly.
And I'm a managing partner here at Fluid. We are passionate about accelerating business growth and being able to work with and partner with excellent individuals and companies and brands. Excited to have Mark here. He's been a friend and partner in terms of being able to team up on projects over the years, and he, in terms of his experience, goes deep and wide in both national and international experience. He currently is the Vice President of Marketing Media Relations at Energy Solutions, which is a very large international company, and has both in terms of negotiating here in Utah, the deal years ago with the Utah Jazz Arena, when that was renamed from the Delta Center to Energy Solutions Arena, and that recently transitioned to the Vivint Smart Home Arena. And he has also brought experience in terms of a depth of clients in the PR world as he went through his agency, Walk Communications, services clients all over the country. And so grateful to have him with us today and be able to glean from his insight.
Welcome, Mark.
Very good. Well, we just want you to know that in terms of today's presentation, hashtag Fluid Webinar Series you can use in terms of any comments, both at our handle at GetFluid as well as at Energy Solutions. Love to have you comment throughout, as well as submit any questions along the way, and we'll take those probably a little bit closer to the end.
Let's just go ahead and jump into it. And just so you all know, we will send out our predictions from last year so you can see exactly what we said, and we'll go ahead and dive into a few of them. But the first one was the digital marketing continues to grow. We may have given ourselves a freebie there, as I'm sure all of us expected the same thing, but it's interesting to see just how much it has grown. Since 2011 to the expected 2016 spends, it's almost double, which is just incredible in a 5-year span, and I would expect that most of you out there are seeing similar things. Mark, do you see similar things with your companies? We may have lost Mark.
It's interesting. I was just in a meeting this morning with a large B2B enterprise supplier of vacuum and leak testing systems, which probably sounds fairly boring, but they actually help aerospace engineers recreate what it's like to be in space. And they have large defense government contracts all over the world. And it's interesting the amount of investment that they will continue to put into digital marketing. We just spent an hour talking about the extent of the videos that they would like to have completed, as they see such impact in terms of YouTube and the traction that they get in terms of net new leads, of how engineers immediately, when looking for certain equipment and components and building these, kind of airless systems to recreate what it's like in space, where they will go and begin just simply to Google, look at images. They've built out a fairly extensive Pinterest board. And you think about a business-to-business company sells highly complex vacuum systems and leak testing. that works to recreate what it's like in space, and yet Pinterest is one of their major lead sources, because engineers are wanting to look at, a multitude of pictures and understand what equipment's available, and then they want to go to YouTube and see a video demonstration. And so digital marketing in that sense is alive and well, even for a, seemingly boring, boring industry. We potentially may not have as much application. So kind of an interesting story there.
That's a good skill to have, and I wish I had it.
We appreciate
because
that.
There's many times when I'm listening to things I cannot write out, just like this.
Real fast, yeah.
Mark, are you with us? We're trying to see if we're even getting any audio. We'll check into that as well. We wanted to just quickly show you as well the interactive marketing spend changes that you guys can see here. Pretty impressive, and just wanted to show you some of the actual breakouts for social media, email marketing, and digital advertising in general. Just starting to see where people are putting their budget dollars to. But social media obviously increasing rapidly, probably one of the fastest growers of all. But the actual fastest grower is the mobile marketing area. We all probably expect that. Interesting that video games actually are doing over 50% of all the mobile advertising out there right now, which is, or mobile games, excuse me, but just really impressive. And that comes from a time when the games really, didn't have a budget. It was all freemium products and things like that, and you can just see how much money those products really are making now that they're advertising on your television even. And so, in a way, their spend has gone to traditional simply because they have so much expendable capital at this point. But go ahead and just look over that. It's an interesting slide, I think, to see where people are starting to move budget towards, and we will talk a little bit more about that in a few more slides. Number 2 was segmentation continues to benefit from social. What we meant here was that in all things in marketing, I think you guys are hearing about segmentation and how to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. This is one that we are saying we got correct, and we say we got that correct because a lot of what we saw with social media's growth in the segmentation area. Twitter recently has improved their own reporting abilities, and LinkedIn actually has one of the best reporting platforms that we've been able to use. And what's really neat about it is the ability to do social ads and then go into the audience segments and see who really was engaging with your product. This is so valuable because you can use that understanding to apply it to all of your digital marketing efforts. You can start to move and allocate budgets into certain demographics that you may not have been familiar with the entire time. And that allows you just to get a little bit better bang for your buck, and you start receiving higher conversion rates for lower ad spends. I'm showing the image here. This is a LinkedIn campaign that we did, but it shows you, job function, and then it even boils into the job title. Who's clicking on these? Education management for the company and industry. That's showing, I was going after education sector. I'm getting the right group. If I hadn't gotten the right group, I would be able to look at this same report and understand that, hey, the people that I'm actually getting clicks from aren't the people I necessarily wanted to go after. If they're converting, I might be learning something. If they're not converting, I know that I need to make some type of an adjustment to my advertising.
We're having Mark joining us right now.
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're back. Thank you.
So we're on slide 3 now.
Okay, thanks.
Slide 3 is sales takes a step back, and we gave ourselves a frowny face on this one that this prediction wasn't necessarily correct. I think that I was a little bit surprised by this, to be honest, because I was looking forward to marketing, becoming the real big player at companies, and maybe that's a little bit biased because I am in the marketing department and I'm always fighting to make marketing a revenue-producing department, but that didn't come to fruition necessarily this year. I do think that marketing and sales came closer together. However, with a lot of the campaigns that we did, we actually started implementing sales even earlier on in the marketing process, and the original prediction would be that that marketing would be in control in the later parts of the sales funnel, which was actually opposite, and a large part of that reasoning was the mobile takeover and the click-to-call button. That being such a popular thing nowadays that you have to have somebody to answer the phone, and sales is getting involved that much easier. It's also helping minimize the sales cycle where you can get a live person talking to people and they're able to move more steps of the sales funnel all at once rather than going through the marketing channels, which are kind of linear in effect.
And we met with a company last week that had gotten to the point where they had anywhere from 25 to 30 sales reps in their office at any given moment, and they could accurately predict with technology when somebody clicked on an ad on Google to immediately send them to a live sales representative in 15 seconds, which is remarkable that they had the availability and that somebody immediately would follow up on that lead within seconds and be on the phone. And so I think we continue to see marketing's role not simply to support the sales team, but to really emphasize demand generation and help them, where it matters most and see impact.
Number 4 is businesses focus on optimization. This is our neutral smiley face here, and we do believe people are focusing in this area. I don't think it was quite as rapid as we had hoped again. This slide here shows how, this is a Google Page Insight screen view, and it just shows how you can report mobile speed and how important it is for you to be optimizing your website for mobile. It'll also give you suggestions on how to fix your site so that it is more optimized and can run a little bit faster across devices. Optimization also applies to desktop, obviously, and just making sure that page speed in general across any device is accurate and fast. That will really help Google's ranking of your site, Google's time on page. They enjoy it, and they don't get a lot of that lag that makes people bounce so quickly.
In terms of our next, unless, Mark, feel free to jump in with any insights that you have to share. But in terms of digital budgets looking different, this was an accurate prediction with the green smiley face. We continue to see that strategies move forward away from durable extent and more to digital media. That isn't a overly surprising change, but a continued trend that we're seeing. We are seeing that display advertising, though, is losing budget share to more personalized marketing techniques. And so we've even, with a lot of our clients, rather than simply reach a target demo with display, where we will build out a campaign of sorts where we can uniquely go after individuals that we can serve up ads not just based on a profile or demographics, but on a unique title, the company that they're with, and really begin to personalize the content and then be able to nurture that relationship over a several-week period. And, when we talk in terms of SEO today, it really is content marketing, good content that's optimized based on what people are looking for, and then promoting that out on the web.
Yeah, I'd say you're seeing that SEO line item now just changing to content marketing. SEO still being included. A lot of people say, oh, SEO is dead. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's probably been pulled under the content marketing grouping. This here is just a brief breakout of how people are spending. You can see that the digital marketing side of things is beginning to grow. Generally, TV, digital, things of that nature are still being utilized and always will be utilized. as long as there's eyeballs on it, even with ad blockers and the ability to skip commercials. Not everybody has that technology still. Seems a little bit odd that we don't. Everybody says it's over, but I think if we all realistically look at the way the world is and different audiences, I don't expect that to be going away anytime soon, but you do see a strategic shift away from that. Retargeting is how you say PLA. Again, maybe a little bit hopeful. I've been hoping for PLA to die for many years, to take a backseat to display and some of the other things. I think retargeting in general is just a lot more powerful tool, and I've added this image here because I'm still not sure that everybody understands how retargeting is a little bit different. This specifically is an image about site retargeting, which is when a visitor comes to your site and then leaves your site and then begins to receive ads trying to bring them back. And that's site retargeting. You can do the same thing with search when people use search terms that you're going after, that your ads begin to pop up and direct them back to the site. The reason I think we kind of gave ourselves the neutral face was that just hear a lot from our clients that this is still kind of creepy, and it may be, but a lot of people are beginning to understand how and why this works, and I think it's all about messaging, to be honest, and what is the offer that you're giving people so that if they're being followed, are they actually getting value from it, at which point they'll like it. If they're not getting a good message, then it can be creepy and a little bit invasive, and I just think you need to really be careful with what your creative is there and have a good strategy in place.
And what I'll say is some of the retargeting tools have become even more advanced than that. You can manage a whole campaign within retargeting where the first ad that they see versus the second and third takes them through that sell cycle. It's knowing that they've hit the site once, and then we continue to have more aggressive and engaging content over time and really manage their interaction with you as a company or a brand in a B2B scenario and kind of do some of that nurturing even through retargeting technology.
Website's relationship with mobile goes steady. This is a no-brainer. Maybe we gave ourselves some easy ones here, but it's just so real. We really do need to focus on making sure that we have this mobile. Again, this is our image of the page speed. So many things that you can fix, and so many people are using mobile that you really need to make sure that your website is working properly. And there's a number of ways to do that. There's kind of mirroring your current website to mobile. That's probably not the most ideal situation, but more importantly, if you and where you can, to be able to make a mobile dedicated site. The way that a mobile user interacts with a website compared to the way that a desktop user interacts are so vastly different that you really should have a mobile version that offers them, location services and click-to-call buttons and a much more simplified interface so that the heuristics of the mobile page allow for larger, push centers, and so there's not as many buttons and click things all stacked on one another where me with my fat thumbs can't really get to that kind of stuff. So you really want to pay attention to that and make things a little bit easier. And again, if you have that possibility, if you can make a mobile dedicated site, it's really important nowadays.
In terms of next, relevance is core to content strategy. If we go to that next slide, as we look at and as we've consulted with numerous companies on content marketing, it comes down to the type of content that will engage them appropriately for the right aspect of the sales cycle that they're in, whether it's initial awareness, first consideration, and engagement and beyond. But we found that the relevancy to their business, as well as the personalization of the content, using such tools as marketing automation and beyond, really allows you to strike at the right moments when the iron's hot, and even broad content, being relevant in terms of timing, in terms of the holiday or, current events and what's happening, relevancy in the context of, the broader global vision of things, relevancy in terms of your company, its progress, and especially relevancy as it relates to what you're able to do, and how you can uniquely impact and provide value to businesses. you want to make sure that you kind of hit on each of those points.
Yeah, and relevance really just leads to the metrics that people are using to define success. And so you can see these top metrics for success here, and how being more relevant, again, back to hitting the right person at the right time with the right message, is going to lead to maybe whoever it is you're reporting to seeing that this is a successful channel.
In terms of our number 9, you can see the smiley face that the request for content queue piles up. Even within our own agency, we continue to ask for more and more and more, and even this morning, we just brought on a new graphic design and intern to help, as there's so much need that we have both visually and in a writing sense. We can never quite keep up with demand. And so what's important here is to, in terms of your own companies, to understand, prioritization, what's going to have impact, and really be strategic about the content you're creating. Although you could sometimes win out with just sheer volume, what will always long-term win out will be the quality of content. In a recent meeting with a client, they said for years we've been producing YouTube videos, only to see that there's such low quality, and you can tell that it was just a guy with his phone, that we didn't even do a good job of staging that it's begun to be detrimental to our brand, and we'd rather still produce volume, but do so with a few more, steps up and notches of quality. We're willing to invest in that, but how, strategically creating content that is relevant and impactful to your audience, just because there's always an infinite amount to create, really finding, in terms of resources and prioritization, I think is fairly important.
This image we have on this slide shows Google Trends of the word or the search term content marketing, and you can see how just in the last 2 years even, this is just absolutely spiked. And we've been hearing content is king for many years, but in the last couple, I think companies have really gotten around this, and this has been a major focus and a new channel that they are employing pretty much across the board. And if you aren't doing this or don't have a content marketing strategy in place, highly suggest you begin to look at one and see how you can use that content to chop it up and use it across many different channels, and see how it kind of defines an entire marketing strategy as you go along. Mark, I'm wondering, have you seen this same thing with energy solutions and personal requests to you?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. For us, on our content marketing, we have a finite number of customers. Our customer base is never really going to increase because you only have so many nuclear power plants, the Department of Energy, the Department of Navy, and the Department of Defense. But we've always got to look for ways to show, how our services are continually improving from a safety perspective, because safety is such a huge deal to us. So that if we are, our content's not going to change as far as what our services are offered, but it's more showing how efficient we can be, how quickly we can get things done for them, and then also where we can save time and money. So it's an interesting beast that Energy Solutions is a part of. I get calls all the time saying, hey, we'd like to help you increase your customer base and other things, when we can't really do that because we have a finite customer base. But, as far as content goes, we've always got to show ways that we're working safely, ways we're managing, and the ways that we're managing and working with communities that we work and live in.
I think that's a great point, Mark, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there and listening today that also have a finite customer base, but content marketing is so unique because what is the current message you really want to get out? And if you're not talking, oftentimes somebody else is talking for you, and that might not be the message you want to be putting out. So content marketing is a great way for you to make sure that you have your spin on everything.
You're exactly right, and that's the reason that we, from a social media standpoint, any accomplishments that we achieve, we blast out in every way that we can. We are always trying to work with trade press to get stories out to the show that we're kind of on the cutting edge of efficiency, safety, and technology, while our customer base remains the same. And that seems to be very effective for us. We've had customers that have left us, that have come back because they recognize just how important our services are and how safely we do things and how we get things done in a timely manner. So it is important and relevant in that respect.
Fantastic. Agreed. Good prediction from us. Our last prediction here was your CEO asked a question about marketing automation. We have the sad face here. I will preface that as we go into the next slide, though. You can see this incredible statistic that there are 11 times more B2B organizations with marketing automation today than there were in 2011. So not everybody is aware of it, which I think was more in line with the prediction, and I thought people would really start looking into this. As an agency, we have more marketing automation clients than ever before as well. However, I don't know that it's part of the daily conversation the way that I thought it would be. I've seen a lot with people using SurveyMonkey's automation service, and they're probably helping lead out this education behind automation. And then, of course, you have the HubSpot and the Marketos of the world that have fantastic content marketing strategies, and you see a lot of that. But it didn't quite infiltrate the way that I had expected it to. And so we predicted that was wrong. We do probably predict that next year it'll continue to grow, but it's not a blanket discovery for everybody.
But it is interesting. Everybody's very open to the conversation, and it's more of a, yeah, I've heard about that. Yes, I should be doing more. I don't know if it's coming from the top down. I don't know, Mark, if Energy Solutions, from your CEO, if he's talked to you or if you guys have explored marketing automation and Energy Solutions. You there, Mark? But I will say that in terms of what we've seen the impact for with organizations, it's quite dramatic in terms of how they see the value integrated within their sales and marketing operations and systems. I mean, it has huge impact and ripple effects with how they manage lead flow. There's an organization, I won't mention the name, but they are very much cutting edge on the medical technology SaaS realm, and very large company, have aspirations to be $100 million just in the next few years. And we sat down and talked through marketing automation, and it wasn't, they had heard about it. It wasn't per se on their budget radar for 2016, but just in a 15 to 20 minute discussion, they said, we absolutely need this. I'm going to approach my CEO today and get budget for it. Because of the importance that we have there. I'm going to loop back Mark in just one moment.
Yeah.
So those are our top 10 predictions for 2015 in review that we've talked about. We'd love to turn a little bit of time to Mark to talk about Energy Solutions and some of the look back. There is some larger, more visible changes, at least in the community here in Utah recently, and I'd love to have him share some of that and be able to give us some perspective.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. What you guys have had to say today I found to be very interesting, and I think it's important these types of discussions take place just because there's opportunity to learn from what other people are doing and the experiences that we're all having to better make ourselves kind of a leader in what we do. What was interesting about Energy Solutions in 2015, as you guys all know, we lost the naming rights. We didn't lose the naming rights. We gave up the naming rights. We didn't renew with the Jazz organization. And what most people don't understand is the reason that we did it. We don't have a single customer in Utah, which I think a lot of people don't understand. And what we don't have is what we lacked was name ID to define who we are. And what was happening with us 10 years ago is the media was defining who we are. And it was creating huge problems for us because we're a heavily regulated industry. So we came up with the idea that if we put our name out there and then from that market ourselves with educational campaigns, then we would be better served. We had an approval rating of less than 30% 10 years ago. And today our approval rating is well over 70%. And part of that is because of the naming rights. You did one of two things. One, we got our name out there visible for everybody, so they had no choice but to probably say, gosh, what does Energy Solutions do? I don't know. But number two, in doing that, we were able to, when you sign a contract with the Jazz like that, you're basically saying, hey, the Millers and the Miller Organization and the Utah Jazz support Energy Solutions, which that alone, with the support that the Jazz have from people in Utah, was going to benefit us. And we found that it did. It was a huge benefit to us in that people started to accept us for who we are, but then they also said, well, geez, if the Millers accept them, they must have done their research, must have wanted to get an understanding. I better do the same thing. And we started to see that number grow. And now, instead of being a story every day in the press, we're no longer every day in the press. When we're in the press, it's usually for something positive. Like a couple weeks ago, we announced the sale of a division and the definitive agreement signed to buy our largest competitor, which is very positive for us. And once two or three stories were done on those stories, but they were all positive. And Energy Solutions is growing. Energy Solutions is making the right moves. So that was the reason for that. The reason that we no longer have the naming rights is we felt like we had achieved the goal of what we needed to do. And so we reached a new arrangement with the Jazz. We're still one of their major sponsors, and we're always going to be very supportive of the Jazz because of what they did for us. So we no longer have the naming rights, but we'll continue to support the Jazz, and it's great to be a part of that community. What I find interesting about that, and I think we'll find that for the next year or two, a lot of people will continue to call it the Energy Solutions Arena, so we will continue to benefit from that naming rights, even though it's not ours. And that was the same thing when it was the Delta Center. In fact, people still call it the Delta Center. But for 2 or 3 years, that's what we experienced.
When mentioning this webinar, Mark, we actually had an internal conversation about how people are probably going to call it ESA still anyway.
Yeah, they will, and I think they will for some time.
But at the acquisition slide?
Yeah, the acquisition side, what we did is when we got purchased several years ago, we were a publicly traded company, and what we did is we were purchased by a company called ECP. They made an acquisition, took us private, but then what they were able to do is start paying down our debt, position us to where we could start to grow again. So we started marketing ourselves that we're a logistics and processing disposal company and look for opportunities to grow. Earlier this year, we acquired another transportation division. Just announced a few weeks ago that we're hopefully going to purchase our largest competitor. But what that does for us, it broadens our line of services to a complete disposal company, so that when a nuclear power plant has waste that needs to be managed and it needs to be properly taken care of, we're able to do that for them and efficiently meet their needs, so that they can continue to operate efficiently. And it'll actually save the nuclear power plants, time and money, and that we're able to operate them for more efficiently and get the work done that needs to be done in managing this material safely. And as part of that deal, we had broadened ourselves quite a bit. When we Energy Solutions first was developed, we were a disposal company. We bought 8 companies, we acquired a lot of companies, and we diversified ourselves quite a bit. What we've done now in selling this division that we're selling is we're going back to what we're experts in. Much like any marketing firm, you've got firms, like Fluid, that are specific to what they can do. I mean, they're really good at what they do, so they focus in on that. And that's what we're doing now, and that's one of the reasons for the acquisition proposal that we have. It's one of the reasons that we sold what we sold. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. From a social media standpoint, we have to communicate this continually. We can't sit back because we do have competitors that are trying to win business from us in other areas that we're involved in the transportation, in the characterization, in the knocking down of power plants that have been retired. So we have to stay on that cutting edge, and we have to continually look for ways to market ourselves. And social media has been a big part of that. I think part of it is, people know that they can turn to channels. They can see something on Twitter. They obviously go to our Facebook page, they go to our website, but they're able to find those locations or find those sources for information and better understand what we do.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that story.
No, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's been a fun ride. It's been a 13-year ride so far, and hope it continues for many more.
I would expect so. I think we still have a little bit of time here, and so just quickly, I'm going to wrap up in summary what we had here. As far as Fluid's top 10 recommendations, we got about 6 right, maybe 2 were neutral or maybe didn't quite come to fruition, not necessarily wrong, and then we had 2 that didn't necessarily pan out the way that we had thought. But ultimately, I think the real takeaway here is that although things are changing rapidly, not everything was different in 2015, and I don't expect it to be in 2016. I think a good strategy that fits your customer or that fits your company is the best strategy. And so as we have all of this information rolling around and whatever is the new hot technology, this, that, and the other, I think it's really important to stay grounded and stay true to your values and stay true to your plan. It won't necessarily get flipped upside down in a matter of 12 months, as we've kind of seen through 2015. I think things are changing and you need to adapt with them, but how does that look for you guys? What kind of investment should you be making and where are you comfortable with? Sounds like Mark has had some, maybe not surprises, but some events come up this year that would be vastly different than what happened in 2014. I mean, maybe Mark, if you want to quickly just summarize what you thought of 2015, maybe some of the changes that you guys had, what you expected and what maybe popped up.
Yeah, one of the big changes that we had is with the gas and oil industry, it really impacted the nuclear side of things. All of a sudden, the cost per kilowatt of power to generate went up dramatically in the nuclear industry, or compared to what you can generate electricity with natural gas. And so some of the nuclear power plant utilities have kind of looked at things and said, well, we're not able to operate as efficient as we have. Our nuclear power plant is getting old. So what we're seeing is a rise in what's going to happen with nuclear power plants shutting down, which is good for us because then you look at them and then they have to be knocked down. Now, by federal law, you can wait up to 50 years because you got to spend nuclear fuel and things in there. What we're having to do we're changing our model from a service industry that services their waste. We had to reevaluate things and say, okay, we can become the expert in D&D, decommissioning and decontamination, meaning going in, assessing a property, knocking it down, knocking the facility down, cleaning it up so that the property can be used for something else. And so that's what we've had to do, and it's an emerging market for us, and so it's something that we look forward to in 2016 and beyond, is Position Energy Solutions to be able to all of a sudden not be a waste facility, but then become a decommissioning with the waste aspect. So there's adjustments there for us, but we're excited about it. It's a growing market for us. It's a multi-billion-dollar market if we adjust properly.
Interesting. You make a really great point of just how the market itself can really alter a marketing strategy, and I think we all have to be conscious of what's coming down the pipeline. We kind of emphasize new technologies and different marketing platforms you might use, but more importantly, probably, what is the market doing within your own industry? That is the conclusion of our WebEx. However, we do have a few questions that have come in, and we wanted to take just a few minutes to address those with you guys. So if I can, Mark, I'll pose a few questions that maybe you and Phil can touch on. The first question I had here was, what is the most effective way to spend a limited digital marketing budget?
I can take that first. I think as Dustin talked about staying grounded, I would be careful to jump to, at least what you've heard or from the latest webinar, that it's not simply an acquisition of new technology that you don't know how to use and you make investments that become meaningless. I had the same question posed a week ago presenting to some students at Weber State University, and it was interesting. Out of that discussion, we discussed how absolutely build your own database marketing with your current customer and prospect database. If you're not repurposing those leads, if you're not continuing to market to those that at least expressed initial interest or potentially might be a prospect down the road, email marketing tends to be kind of the go-to here, and it absolutely far outweighs and provides almost more value than any other medium. And if you're not doing database or email marketing, that would be step number one, to do an excellent job at that. Step number two would be to just provide excellent, relevant content and the capacity and the pace that you can. Be consistent. You can use content not only to enliven and freshen up your site. It drives SEO value. It drives engagement. The leads that do come in on the site that can be repurposed. It can be posted to social media and keep you fairly active there. And so I would turn to social with a limited budget to say, what can we do with our team? How do we engage outside resources and continue to be relevant with the conversation businesses are having in our space? So I'd begin with those.
And Mark, maybe you guys aren't necessarily working with as limited of a digital marketing, but as far as effective ways to spend a digital marketing strategy, can you touch on that?
Yeah, for me, I think one of the things that you need to do is look for earned media opportunities. I think there's real credibility that comes from that when you have someone else telling your story. One of those other folks that can tell your story are the press. And so you're looking for those earned media opportunities. They're out there on the digital side. And they're out there, with newspaper print. They're out there with any of the broadcast services. But there's plenty of opportunity, online, digital, to get your message out there, to market yourself. And it lends real credibility when you're able to do that. And then I think obviously using the social media changes is the other way that I think when you have a limited budget that you can do things.
I would agree completely. Thank you, guys. Another question, I'll give this to you first, Mark. How deeply are sales and marketing integrated? Maybe you can speak to your specific team, and then do these teams need to be working together more?
Absolutely. I think it's critical that teams work together. We've got a business development team, and I've been integrated in with them to help them out in achieving their goals. And I think that if you understand what their goals are and you work closely together as the marketing side of things and as the sales side of things, you're going to have much more success. I mean, when I started attending these business development meetings and started hearing what their needs were and are, it made things a lot easier for me to generate ideas and generate experiences that we can use to create new business opportunities for us. And that also is in the mergers and acquisition world. Being able to work with the M&A guys and give them ideas on way to market, it's been very helpful.
Bill? We were just wondering for marketing and sales integration, I would think you have a lot to say about that.
It's interesting. In terms of the rubber hitting the road, it's always with sales and that team, but how much marketing can support them. I do think that having marketing maybe at least once a month or every other week sit in on a sales meeting, being able to hear their common challenges, what people are requesting, even just simply ask, what type of materials do you need? And you'll get a litany of, well, here's everything we wish we had. And some of the best marketing materials that are created come out of the sales team because they're the ones hearing it firsthand from clients or being able to perceive how they could better explain a concept or a business practice. And I would think that, the marketing team really making an effort to go into the sales world and ask them or simply observe, I think that's some of the best material you can create.
Actually, I'll throw a little cog in there as well. I think one of the missing departments is customer service. I think they have so much insight as to what your customer is really saying that all three of those departments might really benefit from having a monthly meeting, and that's probably not something that's going on at a lot of places right now. I think we have time for about one more question here. And so I will just quickly throw this to you, Phil. What is the balance between focusing on optimization to be more profitable and spending too much time on optimization? How do I know that my business is fully optimized?
So in terms of, it's interesting. I think sometimes I'm not one to be in analysis paralysis where you're stuck and, wondering, well, what steps should we take, and studying the situation far too long, and then you don't have real impact. I think that in terms of a digital marketing strategy and, sales to marketing practice, usually you can optimize or internalize one thing at a time. So you might look at, what you're currently doing in efforts and saying, oh, we're doing an okay job here, we can make improvements here and here and here. I would, in terms of business optimization or marketing, choose one, spend a month, do it excellent, operationalize it, become in the habit of doing it the right way, and then continue to do the next and to the next. There's a great book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, kind of the 40X model it's called, that you really just choose one large, wildly important goal in terms of optimization or priority. And this would very much apply to digital marketing in general, or just business, where focusing on profitability of these marketing efforts and beyond should be a large goal, but it's hard to tackle all of them at once. That I would, peel back one at a time that you think you have the biggest opportunity for improvement, do an excellent job on that, and then keep moving.
That's actually a pillar of conversion rate optimization, is pick the one that would move the dial the most and not pick too many all at once. How about to you, Mark? Anything that you found as far as optimizing, A/B testing, or different messaging to media, anything that you might share with that?
For us, it's always looking for opportunities to work closely with teaming partners, and then optimizing their skills and our skill sets for the best arrangements that's going to make us the most effective on contracts. Our business is a lot of teaming, for some, particularly in these nuclear power plant projects and things like that. So you're always looking to, utilize the best skill set that we have. And in doing so, I think we're finding ourselves, we call them competimates, because sometimes you're competing against them and sometimes you're competing with them. So that's kind of what we do. And I think we're always just looking for those opportunities to grow the business in that respect. And sometimes we're very successful at it, and I think other times there's things that we can learn from it that will eventually make us better.
Something interesting about that is I follow Unbounce, and it's a great resource for a lot of you out there as well. But they do a lot of testing, and they often get the tests wrong. But it's such a learning that they will always, come out with a blog and say, this is what we thought, and we were wrong, and we wanted to share that data with you, and how this information leads us to, readjust a path that we might have been going down that might not have been the right direction. And so I think people are so frightened of failure that in the world of optimization, that sometimes you can be right the first time, but it's better just to know that and have some data behind it showing that you at least are going down that same thing. So that is all I had for everybody today. I really want to say thank you for everybody who attended our webinar. Send a huge thank you to Mark. Thank you for taking this time. I know you're out on the road and we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think all of your insights were super valuable. From everybody here at the Fluid team, drive safe out there, and thanks again.
Look forward to having you for next month. We'll actually have another webinar next week with Griffin Hill on the art of persuasion and helping close those difficult deals and attract attention of those hard to reach audiences. And so tune in next week at the same time, Tuesday at 11:30. And happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, guys.